What's going on, guys? Anime Okage back at it again, and today we're going to be talking about Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 264. The last that we left off on, Hana was hovering over above Sukuna and ready to drop Jacob's Ladder maximum output. But, as you could probably guess, Sukuna's going to pull something out of his ass and have a little bit of plot armor again. Just a little bit, but a little bit goes a long way. Before I go on ranting about the upsetting manner of Sukuna's plot armor, let's just jump right into it. So like I said, the last that we left Sukuna and the gang was Hana was hovering over above and about to drop Jacob's Ladder maximum output right above on Sukuna. And from what we saw, this was a massive blast. It looks like it took up multiple blocks, but it doesn't really matter how large the blast is. Honestly, that would have been much better if it were more condensed right on Sukuna, I think. As you could probably see in these panels, there is a bunch of rubble falling into the air, to which Sukuna is able to use to his advantage by scaling up the Pillar of Light by jumping back and forth between all this debris and rubble. Of course, while he's in the Pillar of Light, he's still able to pull off feats like this. It's not affecting him or anything like that. And I believe the reason is because Yuji and Todo, along with Gojo's body with Yuta in it, are all caught up within the blast, and Hana is not able to actually use the full power of Jacob's Ladder because that is inhibiting her. And also it's stated because of her arm that she is not being able to use the actual maximum output that she would normally have. And Sukuna confirms that it is indeed affecting the attack, because unlike in Yuta's domain expansion, where Jacob's Ladder can be targeted on one person and not affecting anyone else within the domain, Hana does not have that. Wherever Jacob's Ladder hits, and it hits everybody in it. So Sukuna thinks that since everyone else, being Yuji and Todo, are trying to protect themselves against Jacob's Ladder, he will be uninterfered in trying to climb the Pillar of Light to get to Angel, or Hana. And in the next panel after that, Sukuna confirms that losing the arm is proof showing that it is a super strong technique within a weak shell. Losing an arm has drastically dwindled the potency of Jacob's Ladder. Where Jacob's Ladder hit Sukuna before, we almost see him get eviscerated or incinerated, but that is not the case anymore because Hana or Angel, coexisting in the same body, are not able to put out the same output as they did before. We then see Sukuna rearing back for a strike as he says, "Before I'm torn from Megumi's body, I will end you, Angel." But before that strike can hit, which I might add that it is, again, a black flash, how does Sukuna keep getting all this help from the storyline? Before he lands the hit, Todo actually intervenes and gets in between the strike of Angel and Sukuna, taking on the Black Flash blow himself. Todo is very aware of how important Angel is to this entire plan and how she can be used later, even if there's some way to amplify her technique and or just undo other cursed techniques. And Sukuna is very impressed by the willpower and the tenacity of Todo, and he says this man is truly a Jujutsu sorcerer. And as he says that, he commences to blow Todo and Angel through multiple buildings, striking them into a Yamcha-like crater in the ground. So even though Todo jumped in to save Angel, he still couldn't divert all the attack and damage to himself. Hana and Angel are still taking on some of the damage, and we can't see here, but it doesn't seem like they're completely out of the fight. It just seems like they're knocked down right now, as Angel is sitting up and looks like he's in a daze, but it's very far away. The face is silhouetted out, so we can't really tell here. But it does look like Todo might be out for the count. I haven't seen this guy lay down on his back like this, I don't think, ever in this series. So that might be it for Todo and his boogie woogie, but knowing Gege, I'm not going to count him out just yet because I know that Gege loves him a good ass pull. Sukuna is then confirming to himself that these two are out of the battle, and he'll go ahead and snuff out Angel to make sure that she's never a problem again later on. So as he turns around to confront Yuji and take out the last standing competitor in this battle, Yuji is already there with his fist cocked and ready to go. This man has jumped into Jacob's Ladder's light, despite being burnt to a crisp, and followed the same path of debris that Sukuna did to land a devastating blow despite what just happened to Todo and Hana. I'm sorry if I keep switching back between Angel and Hana. It's the same body, same being, so Just know that I'm referencing the haloed winged person whenever I say Hana or Angel. Yuji, with a fistful of cursed energy, strikes Sukuna in the face, and it looks like a devastating blow, enough to where we're seeing Sukuna's body get whipped so fast that it's starting to make some distortion in the silhouette. And without a moment of hesitation, Yuji then grabs Sukuna by his ankles and slams him, throws him through a few buildings. Now, to anyone else, this would be a devastating blow, but we're talking about Sukuna. And Sukuna doesn't get fazed by anything, apparently. As you'll see, he gets another relief or another heal later on. After landing through multiple buildings, Sukuna stands up on his feet again, catching his balance, and you can tell that he's shocked by Yuji's tenacity and how devastating these strikes are to him. Yuji immediately follows up, hitting the ground with a dismantle like the perforated scissor lines that he has, trying to strike Sukuna and trying to land it on the soul yet again. If you all remember, whenever Yuji is using the dismantle technique, he can actually target the barrier in between Sukuna and Megumi's soul because he has such an understanding of the soul and the outline of it within the body. So these strikes breaking that barrier in between Sukuna and Megumi's soul are very devastating because as soon as that barrier is broken, Sukuna is evicted. Sukuna is evicted from this body, and he will not be able to sustain control of the vessel. So that goes without saying, Sukuna must avoid these strikes. As Sukuna evades the strike, though, it shows a counterattack, and it looks like Yuji's worst possible outcome could happen right now. Because of that pre-mentioned Black Flash against Todo, Sukuna has regained his reverse curse technique and is able to heal himself and grow back his missing hands that he was missing before. So now he is no longer at a disadvantage when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, weaving hand signs, or just overall jujutsu. And no matter how good Yuji is at throwing hands, he only has 2 of them, and he's gonna fight against 4. So as you could guess, fighting against 4 hands puts you at a major disadvantage, to where Sukuna is able to grab and catch Yuji's other hands and then commence a beatdown with the other 2. And even being at this disadvantage, it seems that Yuji is still holding his own, still striking and still dodging strikes from Sukuna. Sukuna lands a knee to the head, knocking Yuji back, and Yuji catches himself on all 4s on the ground. But Sukuna is still not used to Yuji and his dismantle technique, so he needs to watch out where Yuji's hands land. And whenever Yuji lands on the ground, he is able to dismantle the ground around Sukuna's feet, knocking him off balance. While he's knocked off balance, Yuji flies in and tries yet again to hit him with the soul barrier dismantle. We're talking about Sukuna here though, so of course it does not land. But Sukuna does acknowledge the lethality that this attack will have against him, a vessel containing type of sorcerer like himself. And as they continue to brawl, Sukuna brings up the point of this attack, saying, "It's very lethal to me, but it's not gonna matter at all if it can't land." And that's when we get a flashback to Gojo, because you know Gege can't help himself but give us a vision or a depiction of Gojo somewhere within almost every chapter since he's passed. For hating this character so much, he absolutely loves referencing him and drawing him. But that might just be to get back at us for liking him so much. He may be relishing in the fact that we all get to see Gojo over and over again, but he's not really there. But what is happening in this flashback is we're seeing Yuji remember whenever Gojo was explaining how a domain expansion works when he was facing off against Jogo. Gojo explains that it expends so much cursed energy, but it has its benefits, saying that first off, you get a major stat boost all around by changing the environment, just like you would in a video game. I know anybody that's an Elden Ring fan is thinking Golden Vow right now. But the main thing that's getting highlighted here is that cursed techniques that are imbued within the domain are a guaranteed hit. And that's when we see it. We see RMC Yuji pull out a hand sign and cast his very first domain expansion. This is the moment we've all been waiting for so long, to see Yuji jump to that upper echelon of sorcerer and find out what his curse technique could be. It's further elaborated on that Yuji was able to find out how to do domain expansion through switching bodies with Kusakabe. If you remember, Kusakabe was a master in barriers. And what is a domain expansion? Essentially, a barrier with your curse technique imbued into it. So once he knew the fundamentals of barrier, he could also start to elaborate further and learn domain expansion. And that's when we see it. The eyes of prey. And you wouldn't believe it, these prey eyes, these doe eyes, are coming from Sukuna himself. And he's different now. He is transferred back to whenever he was in Yuji's body, this version of incarnated Sukuna. And where do we find Yuji and Sukuna? We find them at a train station, an empty train station at that. Sukuna, rightfully so, is confused by this as Yuji walks up to him. And Yuji says nothing but, "Come on, Sukuna, let's go." The narrator chimes in and says this decisive one-on-one battle is heading into an uncharted domain. Yuji is without his other scars that he has on his body, and it seems that it looks like he has gone back to how he looked in Shibuya. And also, Sukuna is going back to what he looked like in Shibuya, being incarnated in Yuji's body instead of Megumi's. Sukuna doesn't seem to be in control anymore of anything. And you can see the fear and confusion in his eyes when he looks up at Yuji as Yuji prompts him to come with him. Now, this is where we start to get into a lot of the theorizing or lore of the story of Jujutsu Kaisen, where we are now with it. Now, if you look at the top of what station they are at Kitakame Station. And whenever you put Kitakame in Google Translate, it translates to going north. And where have we seen our references to north, including south? We saw it in Gojo's after-death experience. See where I'm going here? Now, the hand sign that Yuji throws up in order to have his domain expansion is the mudra of Jizo. He vowed to not take his heavenly place until all hell was purged of evil. Sounds a lot like Yuji. Now, it seems here that Yuji is going to forcefully drag Sukuna north. And if he drags Sukuna north, we know that north is to become something new. It is to be reincarnated or rebirthed as something else. There's a few things that I think could happen here, and I'm probably not going to be able to touch on everything that could possibly happen. But a few of them are, one, Chekhov's gun, the merger. Is Yuji going to bring Sukuna in to begin the merger by merging themselves back together? Because as it's speculated that Yuji is Sukuna's twin brother that he ate in the womb, or he is a reincarnation of his brother that he ate in the womb. And I don't know what could happen with the merger beyond that, but is Yuji dragging him into that? Or is Yuji going to simply be able to sacrifice himself in order to drag Sukuna north with him so that they can both start anew? Or Yuji might not sacrifice himself and he just may force Sukuna to go north, and that would be part of Jizo's vow to purge all evil in hell. And a lot of it starts to make sense once we see this mudra, because Jizo is actually depicted with a red scarf normally around the neck, and that looks exactly like Yuji's hood that he has on his signature JJK outfit. And this also brings up the point that I know a lot of people in here are going to love or hate. I think it's another sign that Gojo could be coming back, because this seems to be an innate domain, something that Sukuna showed off when he first made the vow with Yuji a long time ago in order to bring Yuji back to life. And maybe the airport was Gojo's innate domain, trying to figure out what he would become or his next step in his process of reincarnation or life. Now, we never got a real answer to whether Gojo went north or south, but north was to be reincarnated new, and south was to become the person that you were before. Perhaps Gojo becomes the person he was before, but now with a new understanding that he is not just a weapon. He is Gojo Satoru. And perhaps Yuji takes the alternate, going north in order to purge Sukuna of who he has been and who he is. I don't know, there is a lot to swallow within this chapter, but I don't believe that we are on break again next week, so it's right back into the action. We're going to find out what happens with Yuji and his brand new domain. I'm wondering what he's going to call it. If you guys have any idea of what he calls his new domain, drop it down in the comments, and we're going to try and pick the best one out of all the possible comments. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I'll see you again real soon. See you later.